Good evening and welcome to the South County Fire Board of Commissioners regular board meeting for August 20th, 2024. I'll go ahead and call us to order and ask everybody to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up, board members, is approval of the agenda. One item that we don't have ready for tonight is item 9B, the fire prevention presentation, including the city of Linwood. So that won't be going forward tonight. And Chief, when do you anticipate that would be ready to come back?
I'm hoping the work session is in September.
Work session in September.
Chief Anderson's working through that, but unfortunately he has COVID, so it'll be a little while before we get that solidified.
Okay, but definitely not for tonight.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
So that's the only change on the agenda for tonight. Is there anything else for the agenda? Anything else for the agenda? If not, I will move to adopt the agenda. Is there a second?
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as changed with 9B being removed. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. That takes us to the consent agenda, item number 4 on the agenda, with the claims vouchers totaling $1,453,515.89. I move the adoption of the consent agenda, including that item 4A, the claims vouchers. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Teoflack. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. That takes us to item number 5 on the agenda, which is approval of the meeting minutes. We have the meeting minutes for the regular board meeting of August 7, 2024. I move the adoption of the August 7, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Wittes. It's been moved and seconded to adopt the August 7, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. That takes us then forward in the agenda to item number 6, which is public comment. Is there any request for public comment? We'll start first in the room and then go to our Zoom online audience. Starting first in the room, is there any request for public comment? Any request for public comment? Not seeing any request in the room for public comment, I'll turn it over to Ms. Blankenship to ask if there's anybody requesting public comment on our Zoom audience.
There is not.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Blankenship. Seeing no request for public comment on Zoom or here in the room, I'll thank everybody. And we will move forward then in the agenda with no public comment to item number 7 on the agenda, which is the Fire Chief's report. Good evening, Chief Eastman.
Good evening, Chair Kenny and the rest of the board, the public and staff. A very brief chief's report tonight. I know that's not normal for me, but it is. We had one big event that happened on Sunday. Our Marine unit doesn't get deployed very often. And so if Brian would put up the photo, if you looked at the paper, and I think Melissa sent this out to everybody in her email to you guys this morning. There was, we assisted the city of Everett. They had kayakers, 5 of them that needed rescue. Marine 16 was part of that. They didn't call out Marine 16 in the paper, but they did identify South County as an agency that went and assisted. It is separate. There's still a missing kayaker. That's a separate event that the Coast Guard in Everett, and I don't know how much of a role our agency played in that piece, but anytime the Marine unit gets to get out and actually do the response work that we have it in place to do, I want to make sure the board knows about it. It doesn't happen very often, but it becomes a very, very valuable resource. And quite frankly, if we didn't have it, we'd be sitting on the shore and we wouldn't have any capabilities to do. And we do work well with the Coast Guard, but they're limited with resources too. So when needed, even though it doesn't happen very often, a valuable asset that's not just used by us specifically to the waterfront in Everett or Edmonds, which is where most of our responses happen, But we played a significant role in making sure that the 5 paddleboarders were rescued and brought to safety. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. The only other thing I'll add is that things are going very well with the Alderwood Mall Parkway property acquisition. We did extend the feasibility for 10 days, but that's not going to change the end result. So everything's going well in that. And with that, I'll conclude my chief's report. Thank you.
Chief, that was a very brief report. My goodness. Notable.
Well,
Questions for the chief on the chief report. We'll start with Commissioner Fernhoff first and then Commissioner Chan. Commissioner Fernhoff.
Yeah, I just wanted to, as somebody who maintains situational awareness, give kudos again to the crew for staffing Marine 16. I don't know how they did it, but they had a jetpack on their back. They were on that boat and out of the marina and into open water in record time. I was astonished. And I can just say I'm really, truly impressed and very grateful for everybody who exercised such skilled just the skills that it takes to get a boat underway like that. So well done. Or as they say in the Coast Guard, bravo Zulu.
Commissioner Chan.
yeah. So Marine 16, so it's staffed by people from Station 16?
It's usually staffed. The boat operators or the boat crews are usually at Station 17, right
17.
up the hill. Yeah.
But we call it 16.
It's been Marine 16 since the very beginning, and at the end of the day, everybody knows it by that, so it didn't make sense to change the
So
number.
what happened if the Station 17 crew were out?
So we have other boat operators that would, if we have them on duty, they would respond and staff it. We do have, I don't know how many we have, Jason, operators. So we have 30 organizationally that are able to respond. If we didn't have anybody on duty and 17 was on a call, they'd have to wait for 17 to clear the call, get back and go. And there's lots of ways that plays, right? You can have a boat operator at Station 16, 17 has the majority of the crew. Station 16 goes down to the boat, gets it going, gets it fired up, gets it ready to go. So when 17 comes, the BCs are aware of who their boat operators are and can clear units and make that happen. So we have not as fast of response as they would if they're coming from Station 17. But for those specialties, we have the same challenges with hazmat and rescue. The BCs manage that and pull them when it's appropriate off whatever event they're on, or training that they need to go and respond. So
So the incidents happened in Everett, right?
this was an Everett call out that they used us mutual aid.
So they did go back, or the 911 would not automatically dispatch, call up Marine 16 or.
So I didn't go back and look at the call record to know how it was done. And so my guess is what happened is Everett got the call, arrived on the scene, and then requested our assets and other assets because Snohomish Regional was there. We were there. I know the ferry system was part of the rescue. So it was a multi-agency, multi-resource, because I don't think all 5 people were in the same place. I think they were scattered.
out.
So you had them in multiple locations. And so I don't think we were part of the initial dispatch, would be my guess.
Right.
My guess, we were shortly requested once Everett realized they have 5 people in the water, they were in 5 different places.
So then you have to go for, so it's gonna take us a while to go up there, isn't it? To get on the boat and get ready and.
Well, they can get the boat underway relatively quickly. I mean, our boat can get underway quickly once they get there. And I don't know what the crew, I don't know a lot about our boat. I don't know what the cruise is now that they've re-engined it and some of those things. The boat's not slow.
How many
Um,
knots do they go?
Is it 28? I can find out. I remember 24 to 28. So they can get up to Everett relatively quickly.
It's
And
still slower than motor. I mean, slower than a car, right?
Yeah.
It's still,
yeah. But once again, and they were drifting, to my understanding, some folks were drifting south too,
okay.
right? So there's a lot of variables that go along with
Yeah,
that. Commissioner.
I'm really interested to see how we, because summertime, there's so many boating out there. I mean, this is really, sometimes it's crazy too.
Yep.
And many of them I noticed in the past, there's a lot of beginner, driving a boat and stuff like that. Don't know what
We have some that are new and some that are well seasoned. So
Right.
we've got a good mix. And you know, some of the things we're doing with the boat, we need to do more down the road operationally with the boat that you'll hear about briefly when we start talking budget and long-term where we need to go. You know, the boat's getting old and some of those other
Right.
pieces. So we'll have more conversation about the marine unit and, you know, where I'm thinking operationally about some of the things we may need to do, not immediately, but if we're gonna be in that arena, have that as a resource we use, then there's things that I believe we need to move the program forward a little bit. We have a good program, but quite frankly, we could be better. You know, we're at a spot where we need to start having that conversation about what does that look like, and like I said, that's a 3 to 5 year plan. It's not something that's immediate.
Well, McAtee occupy a pretty good beach water area, but they don't have anything, right? Yeah, that's need to be considered. Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief on the chief's report? Very good. Thank you, Chief Eastman. All right, next up, we have the union report. We have Vice President Pickens on the Zoom. Good evening.
Good evening, commissioners. I'm going to follow my fire chief's lead and keep this brief. I don't have anything to report tonight. Unless you guys have any questions for me, I'll keep it that brief.
That's quicker. That's quicker than the chief's report. Any questions from the board for Vice President Pickens? Any questions? No questions? Very good. Thank you, Vice President Pickens. Okay, moving forward then in the agenda to unfinished business, we start with the 2025 expenditure forecast with Chris Bothwell. Good evening, Mr. Bothwell.
Good evening. All right, so tonight we've got the 2025 status quo expenditure forecast. This presentation is a complement to the revenue forecast that I presented 2 weeks ago. So tonight I'm going to start with some background, then I'll go into the forecasting method and share with you the assumptions that we're using the forecast. I'll get into the results, and then we'll talk about some pending items, which are not included in the status quo expenditure forecast, but are things you're likely to hear about in the future. So I wanted to put those on your radar. And then I will finish with the draft status quo budget results. And that's just going to be a quick look at, if we look at the revenue forecast and the expenditure forecast, what the difference is between the two of those. All right, so the status quo expenditure forecast is the predicted cost to provide current services at current levels of service without any extras. And so this is the starting point where we take out all of the one-time items and discretionary things from the last budget, and we look at how much the costs are going to increase in the coming year. And the reason for this is that it informs the organization about the ongoing costs of providing services and provides a baseline for budget development. So it lets us know where are we when we start the budget cycle, without anything discretionary in there. And what you're going to notice is that the budget goes up every year, but it's not because we're adding things. It's because of those external factors like inflation. So I distilled the forecasting method into 5 steps here. We start with the current adopted budget, then we strip out all the one-time discretionary and non-recurring items. We then group expenditures based on the nature of the expenditure and the external factors that affect their increases or their changes from year to year. And then we apply the best available data to predict changes in the upcoming year. And the result is a status quo forecast. So I've got 5 assumptions I want to share with you that were used to develop this forecast. The first is that there's a 3.6% cost of living adjustment for all employees. We're contractually obligated to give a cost of living adjustment to represented employees of 3.6%. And that represents about 87% of our payroll costs. The other 13% is discretionary, but we assumed that they would get the same COLA because that's historically what we've done. The benefits are assumed to increase at the rate of total salaries and wages, except medical, and that is scheduled to go up by 8%, and that's just based on our self-insurance plan. And then all non-employee costs are assumed to increase by national inflation, so we use a different inflation number. A lot of the non-employee costs are not coming from Western Washington. They're coming from all over the country. And so national inflation or headline inflation seems like a better number to use for those. And then we do make adjustments for actual or known non-employee changes. And so things like the Snow 911 budget, you'll see their assessment, that's in there as an actual rather than just an inflationary increase of 3%. And there's a few things like that, and I'll highlight those when I get to the results. And then the final one is that the asset replacement strategy is the same as was implemented back in 2023. And what that includes is the major facilities maintenance set aside $500,000 as well. So the overall result of the forecast is that total general fund expenditures are forecasted to increase by $5.9 million, which represents 5.4% increase compared to 2024. And about 3.8 million of that is attributable to employee costs, and then 2.1 to supplies and services, which are the non-employee costs. So I have a breakdown of the employee cost increases. The first one is merit or step increases, and these are the increases that are programmed in the contract and in our personnel policies for folks when they move from like a firefighter 1 to a firefighter 2. The value of those increases in 2025 is expected to be $500,000. The cost of living adjustment that I mentioned is valued at about $2.1 million, and then the benefits increase, and this is split between the healthcare and the other benefits, is $1.2 million for a total of $3.8 million increase in 2025. For non-employee costs, we have inflation for services and supplies. So these are all the services and supplies that aren't listed here, increased by 3%. And we'll have better data on this next time I see you with the full status quo budget, because we will program in what divisions have requested. This is just based on kind of painting with a broad brush at 3%. We have a couple actual increases that I want to highlight. First is the dispatch Snow 911. Their assessment for us is going up by $400,000, so that's in there. We have a change in the apparatus replacement, just an update to that, and that's an incremental cost of $225,000. And then we're expecting our insurance, our brokers tell us our insurance cost is going to go up by about 10%, which represents about $70,000. So the total of all that is $2.1 million. And there's three things that I want to highlight for you that are not included in the forecast. And these are things that you're likely to hear more about as we move through the budget cycle. And then these would be considered to be part of the status quo. They're sort of in a pending status right now. So the first one is we have the one-time underfunded apparatus with delivery likely in 2025. So we talked about apparatus replacements and purchases over the last couple of years a lot. And a couple of times we had apparatus, and a lot of what we talked about was huge price increases and long delays to actually get things once they were ordered. And two apparatus, the tiller, the TDA, and the one of our engines were underfunded when we signed the contract to get them. But they were several years out at that point, and it looks like a couple of those are likely to be delivered next year. And so it's time to fund that shortfall, and that's a one-time expenditure, and that's $1.2 million on the TDA that's underfunded, and then $1 million on the engine. The second one is the nurse navigator. This is actually handled through Snow 911. They have a pending grant application to fund these services, but if that application is not successful, then we will be on the hook for that, and that's $125,000. And then the third item that I just wanted to put on your radar is operations overtime. You may recall last year we increased the budget for operations overtime based on the historical trend, and we've seen that trend sort of reverse. And so we need to do an analysis as staff and figure out what that number should be for the next budget. But that's a big ticket item, so I wanted to highlight that that's pending. It's rolled forward in the status quo budget based on the 2024 budget. So it may be that that number is a little bit high, but we'll do that analysis and get back to you on that piece. So this is when we put the forecasted revenue that I brought to you 2 weeks ago, and we compare that to the forecasted expenditures that I'm showing tonight. We've got the forecasted revenue is $108,800,000. Expenditures are $114,500, and the difference or the deficit is $5.7 million. And one thing that we talked about at the last couple of budget cycles is the underspend of actual expenses relative to the budget. And I think we've discussed this topic a lot, and I think the sweet spot's probably between 2 and 5% of our budget. And we accounted for that, or at least looked at that in the context of the budget we were adopting and the deficit last year. And so I just wanted to highlight that that's not a part of this. So these are just like the numbers without accounting for what might be an underspend or what we would actually realize. If it's anything like it was last year, we would actually realize a deficit that would be probably a couple $1 million at least, lower than the $5.7 million. But this is kind of the starting point. So what's next? We have the status quo budget with actual division requests. I don't expect that that's going to move the needle much, just based on chatter about and the requests that I've seen and the questions that I've received. I don't think that's going to move the needle much, but we'll have additional detail next time I see you with that. And then we'll also do an update to the long range forecast that'll be coupled with that presentation too, and that'll be at the first meeting in September. That's what I have for you. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions from the board for Mr. Bothwell? Any questions? Commissioner Chan?
On the 911, on the 911, 400,000, can you tell me what percentage is being increased on that? What we've been paying?
That's a great question that I don't have an answer to.
No, I don't have an answer yet.
I think it's like 5.7. If I
Okay.
remember Commissioner Chan, I think we're currently, or no, it's a little bit higher than that.
It's going to be
10,
higher than that.
10 and a half, something like that. I can get you the exact number. I
Yeah.
don't have it, but I remember in the meeting talking about it and they showed us what it was at not the last meeting, but the meeting before.
Well, I'm just, I think it's significant increase because they're building the new facility and all that stuff.
Most of it's
Just-
because they're increasing staff. I mean, this is something that they've done over the last, I want to say it's 2 or 3 years. That they needed to get to a new staffing number and they were incrementally getting up there. So the majority of this is they're adding the next, and I want to say it's the last phase, and Commissioner Farnoff, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's to get them to where they wanted to go when they started talking about upping the number of staff that they have at the end. So it's mostly staff is my recollection of it, Commissioner Chan, and it was
Yeah.
something that they've been doing over the last few years.
Right, yeah, no, I'm just curious because I've been always kind of watching them, the money. I appreciate you gonna give me the number. Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Chan, just to give you a context, it's in the packet here, but it's based on also increased call volume and other costs to the new, implementing the new radio system. So we're going from an old radio system to a new system. Calls have gone up, requests for service, these
I
kinds of
mean, the
things.
new system still
The new radio.
yeah, what do you call it? We call it, that new system, have been there for years.
Yeah, it's about to go live here soon. So they've been
Alright.
spending a lot of money upgrading towers, increasing the
You mean there's
lease.
another new system called,
Uh,
what was the older one called?
Well, not to get too technical, but this is called a P25 Phase 2, and it relies on a system called TDMA. But anyway, it's the new system. that we're going
Another
to.
new system,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Thanks.
Commissioner Chan, I have the assessment spreadsheet too. I can put those numbers together and send them through Melissa and have her distribute those.
Sure, yeah. Can you also give me the presentation too?
Of course.
Of course. Yeah, I appreciate it. Next time, just send me a presentation earlier so I can refer to it.
It's not ready until I'm
The
sitting
last
here.
Okay.
Are there other questions for Mr. Bothwell? Mr. Bothwell, I did have a question. What is the number that you're currently using for overall inflation or national inflation for next year?
3%.
3%, okay. Any other questions? If not, no. All right, thank you, Mr. Bothwell.
Thank you.
All right, moving forward in the agenda, then we are off then to item number 10 in new business, which is 10A, the amended RFA plan to account for the benefit charge renewal. I believe that'll be Chief Eastman.
I think the benefit charge certifies today, if I'm not mistaken, the 20th. So in talking to legal counsel, talking to Richard, there's not a requirement to do this, but this is probably a best practice, is to when we do revenue streams and things that should, I'm going to say, belong in the plan, that we update the plan. So what's in front of you is an amended RFA plan that adds a line in there that says the benefit charge now goes, the renewal starts in 27 and goes through 36. And that's really what was added to the RFA plan. I think that's best practice, because when people look at how we function and what we are, this is our charter per se, and keeping that most current is probably beneficial to the RFA. So what's before you is the amended plan that takes into account the action that the voters did with renewing the benefit charge. And that's really all that was changed. And then the date on the bottom of the footnote shows that it was updated in August of 24. This is in front of you. If the board chooses to take action tonight, they can. If the board would like to see it and not take action tonight and take action in September, we'll bring it back in September. But if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. But this is, for me, this is a straightforward and more administrative to update the plan, but we are updating the RFA plan. This is the first time you've seen it. So it's here for discussion. If the board chooses to take action tonight, they can. And if the board would like to bring it back at a future meeting, staff will accommodate.
So Chief, it looks like the only change is at page 64 of the packet in paragraph A2, just basically noting that in 2024, the voters approved a renewal of the benefit charge for 10 years, beginning in calendar year 2027 and expiring 2036.
That is correct. And then what they did is at the footnote is it just says it's been updated as of August of 24. So it's a very simple amendment to the plan, but staff likes to bring things forward and give the board time to think about it for a week before we ask you to take action. So,
Commissioner Wittes.
I don't know either if it's certified or not. Should we wait just to make sure it's certified and just put in the consent agenda for the next meeting?
I believe it's certified at 5 o'clock tonight.
Either way.
Well,
Or
yeah,
I'm happy to make a motion to.
the numbers were quite wide
Yes.
for approval. So,
I'd be more than happy to make the motion.
well, but if I could have you hold off just a second, Commissioner Wittes, and just see if there's any questions about it. Any questions? Any strong objections to taking action on the basically technical amendment tonight? Well, Commissioner Wittes, I think your motion's in order. What is your motion?
That we accept the change of the plan.
Accept the RFA plan amendment change tonight? And I'll second that. So it's been moved and seconded to adopt the RFA plan amendments noted in the record in the packet tonight. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. That takes us to item number 10B, which is interlocal agreement between South County Fire and Snohomish County regarding fire benefit charge collection services. Chief Eastman.
So this one is under a time constraint. We received the update from the county on August 7th. Ran it through legal, and I found out, I want to say it was either Thursday or Friday, maybe it was Thursday, that the county needs this back before the 28th of August so they can get it through their channels so it can be approved prior to the end of the year. The big change with this is the document's really the same document we had in the past. The difference is, if you recall, when we put the benefit charge forward, we're required to have an agreement with the county, and there's a fee associated with them doing the collection for the benefit charge. They have a way where they only want to cover the cost of the employee cost to do it. The change substantially in this is in the last couple of years, they charge us $1.03 per parcel, and that went up 7 cents to $1.10. And be honest with you, with the increases that we've had with labor over the last 4 years, that's a modest increase to the cost. And so what that is it's actually very reasonable. Our agreement with our county assessor and the treasurer's office is far better than most of the other agencies do benefit charge. They usually give the county a percentage, like 1% of what they're collecting on the benefit charge, which is significantly higher than what we pay. So staff, I know we brought this to you, it's the first time you've seen it, but staff would ask that the board take action tonight, allowing me to sign this so I can get it back to the county, so it can get on the county's docket and be approved prior to the end of the year. I'll take any questions.
Questions for Chief Eastman? Any questions for Chief Eastman? If not, I will go ahead and move that we authorize the chief to sign the interlocal agreement for benefit charge collection services with Snohomish County. Is there a second? It's been seconded by Commissioner Fernhoff. It's been moved and seconded to adopt that ILA and authorize the chief to sign. Is there discussion on the motion? Is there discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you again on behalf of staff.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, then moving forward in the agenda to item 11, which is committee updates. We'll start with Capital Facilities Plan Committee, and that is Commissioner Lawrence as the
Yeah.
chair.
Yes, we had a meeting last week and we had the architect with us and his assistant. And first off, the community rooms, there is no room on this site for a community room. It's a little constrained. Though the board needs to have the overall discussion someday about community rooms in general for future projects, future fire stations. But this station is just can't handle it on the site. The next thing was the 6-bedroom. The plan had 5 slated, and the staff and the architect would like to, the staff would like to have 6. So they will come back in October with that extra cost would be for that one space. Okay. The next thing was electrification. They'll come back in October with costs for the plumbing. They do think it's a good idea, the staff and the architectural firm, to have the plumbing, the conduit laid in because eventually that is coming down. And so very little costs now, but they'll have those costs for in October. So we got that community room. The what?
The energy bills.
Oh, yeah, well, that's the green stuff we got to do. They're going to come back in October with what's that all costing us? And my special question for them was, well, what part of that is going to have a payback? There'll be payback, the investment in it and then savings in energy or whatever. And how much is just extra bureaucracy that they laid in for no particular reason. So they'll be back with that too. All right. Thank you for being my memory, Chief Estelo. That's it.
And I just wanted to add to that some of those items that Commissioner Lawrence talked about will come back to the board for discussion about future stations. The site itself has limitations on what can be done, but some of the issues for future stations, like not mentioned here, but drive-through bays, community room, the actual number of stations, number of rooms, those are some of the issues that this station doesn't necessarily create that's not the future, necessarily the future path, but the chief definitely has some distinct ideas that might be different from the past. And the board kind of needs to weigh in and kind of set a direction for, particularly if we want to have like a model station that we're thinking about going forward. So to be determined and coming back to the board for discussion.
I kind of,
Yeah,
Is that-
Commissioner Chen.
yeah, I got mixed feelings about community room because I know we have a big discussion before because last time was at 50,000, now probably more. I remember the Station 10 when we had a big discussion. On one hand, it is important because it is community, want them to use it. So before the next time we decided, is there any way you can give us the utilizations of the community room?
Yeah, I think we owe that and owe that to you. And I think post-pandemic's different than pre-pandemic. So
Right.
we want to make sure we give and a straightforward look at that. And we may need to go look at back in time because things are different. And that. So yeah, I know that's on Chief Isotela's radar as we prepare for the further conversation with regards to that. We know we need to bring some of that forward to help the board, or at least let them know what the utilization is now, because if it's not being utilized at all, I think it changes the conversation. If it's utilized, where we got people in it 70% of the time, it changes the conversation too. And I don't have those answers off the top of my head.
But I think the utilization also too, people are not aware of the community room. Now, many people know the library, you can, get a room free, but not in the station. So there's good thing and bad thing about it, Yeah, it would be great. I mean, if we don't, should we promote more the utilization? Let the neighborhood, to know about it.
That's the big
Okay.
discussion we're gonna have future.
Okay, next up, the next committee is Finance and Human Resources, Commissioner Chan.
Yeah, we have a meeting on Thursday. First, we start with staffing on the, have a very good discussion, and you mentioned about we might have to change our staffing because all the cross-staffing and that type of thing, and we have a big discussion. And what surprised me that when you tell me of the mid-level, if you do it right, how many people it needs, I was right. Oh my goodness, that is really something. So I think we need to really a good discussions on that. And then along the line is that, yeah, I think right now we're a completely different world now, right? Because meat rise and congestions and everything else. So we gotta, I trust that you guys will come up with a good, but of course, if with the money. The second one we have is on the human resources. I think they're going to do a survey for the non-uniform people, and David promised me is will be much better than the last one, right? Because I think it's important, because I think we were including the private practice of that in there. Commissioner Lawrence, do you remember anything else you want to add?
If I remembered anything?
What? You were in the meeting. I don't know. Were you?
No, you got it all there, David.
Okay. Staff, did I leave anything out? I just mentioned the major one.
No, it was a good conversation, and some of that's going to spill over into our budget conversations that we have for the month of September, and I'm sure it'll probably move into October too when we talk staffing, because that's, as we know, that's our most valuable commodity that we have in the organization, and it's the majority of our budget.
Right. I also request CFOs. I want those meat rise. How much of the new revenue we got from them? So that's yeah.
Mid-rise.
So I think that's critical, right? Sometimes we thought, oh, we got a lot of money, but I think from what you say, it's gonna cost a little more to serving those property, right? So, no, it's a good conversation. Okay. Anybody else questions?
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Chan. Next up is intergovernmental with Commissioner Wittes.
Thank you, Chair. We did not meet, but just let you guys know, the chief and I did meet with Commissioner Mills from Snohomish and their fire chief. He's been up here before, he's been in our meeting. We had that whole group meeting. We're looking at doing that again next month after. It hasn't been scheduled yet that I'm aware of. Have you heard a date?
I thought it was September 18th, but I'm.
Okay, we'll let you know when they lock it down. It was more just the historical data that has happened in the county and with different departments, mergers and landmines and pitfalls. So that's pretty much it.
Sounds good.
And that was a lot of.
Thank you. Lastly, we have Snow 911 with Commissioner Fernhoff.
Yes, good evening. Yes, we met this last week on Thursday. We had a pretty good turnout. It was one of our first, well, not first, but our in-person meetings that we have here at headquarters. We're gracious enough to host them. They went over several points. One was the new facility project update. They are doing very well in terms of their timelines and possibly even a smidgen ahead, because when they originally forecasted the cost of the facility, prices were inflated and materials are actually coming in under budget, which is a nice surprise. Also, the radio replacement project is on target. So for those that don't know, we're transitioning from basically an analog to a digital system that'll allow for more capacity, which is really good news as we get busier up here. There was a no police TAC as far as a report out, and the final item, oh, there was one other thing. We have a lease agreement with our radio tower sites, and those came up for renewal. So those had to be voted upon to extend them out for another 3 years. And some of those sites are also dependent on having cooling, air conditioning. And those air conditioner units, unfortunately, have some of them have worn down or failed. So there was a request for an emergency funding initiative to replace those cooling centers. The last thing involves our Chief Eastman. Chief, you want to talk about the CAD?
Yeah, so I think Commissioner Farnoff reported that we did an additional 3-year contract with Tyler, which is who owns New World. So we're doing that, and I'm happy to say that they've got an information technology committee that they just established. Myself, Chief DeMarco, Chief Lundquist from District 7 are on it from the fire side. There's 3 representatives from PD. I don't know who they are. Terry Peterson and Kurt Mills, with the plan to figure out what we're going to do with future CAD. In other words, our CAD, we started in 2011, went live in 2016, and technology changes faster than it used to change. So now this group is going to look at what technology is out there and set up, do we stay with what we have? Is it time to go look at a new CAD? What does that mean? What does it look like? And so I'm fortunate enough to be sitting at the table for that. And the plan for the rest of this year and next year is to figure out what the plan is and what we need to look at. And if we need to go look at new CADs, develop the RFP and that whole process. And if anybody knows what we did with New World, it's probably once we decide we need to make a different change, it's probably a 2 or 3 year endeavor, not 7 like it was with New World. But a 2 or 3 year endeavor to make that switch. And quite frankly, there's a cost affiliated with all those other pieces. So I'm actually grateful. That was one of the things that Commissioner Farnoff and I had not talked about yet, but that was going to be something I was going to strongly encourage that the Snow 911 board do something to look future about what we need to do, because technology changes so much. And it's not that our New World CAD is absolutely horrible, but I believe if we're not doing a due diligence looking at what the products that are out there, we're doing a disservice to everybody we serve. And CAD, if we have a CAD system that is not working, we can be the greatest agency in the world. And if we can't get notified and figure out how to get there, that's problematic for us. So CAD is a very important aspect of what we do, and we need it. And we often don't necessarily realize how much we rely on it. More to come. We'll keep you updated on that process. It's a long, drawn out thing, and I don't suspect we'll have any significant things to bring back to you guys and the board until probably the middle of next year. But we have a seat at the table, and I'm actually looking forward to the conversation. So that's the additional piece of what happened at 911.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. Other than that, there were no other details, but just a side note, as somebody who's had more recent experience in touching our CAD, I asked a question of somebody who had been more familiar with it for the last 7 years, and they said, well, it's better than what we had. And I said, what did you have before? We had a map book and we scribbled notes on a piece of paper. So just giving you the contrast points.
Very good. Thank you.
Do you have questions on that?
Oh, Yeah, do you have any question? Do you have a question?
Yeah, so
Commissioner
actually,
Chan, go ahead.
actually, we're joking here about new world become old world, right? I remember, I know that because the biggest problem for them is that there was a system that combined with fire and police. And that really, they create a new one versus using the new one. So is, in general, from your point of view, are you guys working well with the fire thing or still so many things that is not adequate?
To be honest, I think operationally, we use the strong components that the new World CAD has to offer. You know, there's pieces of it that don't work as good as your iPhone and the crews. We've given the crews the tools, you know, Active 911 and First Do, and they have some capability. They're connected with CAD. So the things that we don't think or crews don't think New World does as good, which is routing and mapping. It's like looking at the old Centipede, right? And then looking at the new Xbox, right? It's
Right.
very different, right? Where, you know, crews are tending to use Pulse Point or Active 911 or First Do to do their routing, and we've given them the tools to do that. So I think a lot of the things that we thought New World was going to do that it's not
Right.
doing, I think we've operationally figured out this is what we get, this is what we've got, and the operational team that we have here at South County has taken the best, and where we need to shore things up, we've done it, and not just because we were challenged with what New World was doing, but we brought other things into place and we're able to leverage like we did with our pre-fire plans with First Do and take that, the expense we had to do that and added the connection to CAD and added that option for the crews to use. So it wasn't like we spent extra money to fix what we didn't like in New World. It was, we took things that we were already going to go do, leverage that and use it to our advantage and got, you know, two bangs for the dollar instead of the one that we were going to do anyway. So, you know, we've banged on New World a lot over the years, and I'm not shy about doing that. I think there's a lot of things promised that never came. I think there's things that they've tried to improve, and there's just challenges with where New World was at the time when we purchased it that they
Right.
were never going to be able to do. I guess at the end, now that we're looking at what's out there, what should we be doing in Snohomish County? What is the best vehicle for us to do, not just for fire, but for law? And quite frankly, DEM and the other folks that rely on CAD to do that work. I'm actually happy that this organically happened and we didn't have to go pound on the table and say, please do this. So credit to the 911 staff for putting this forward or however it came to be. You know, and I'm excited about looking at what options are out there and where we should be going because the world is different. Technology changes so dang fast that there's now options out there that can make things better for all of us, not just in dispatching our crews, but situational awareness and being able to connect with other things and, you know, law enforcement being able to have CAD connect to, you know, the public camera systems out there. So when our crews are going on scenes of violence, that somebody's watching and knowing and protecting our crews differently than we have now. That capability exists. So I'm excited about looking for the future and what does that mean. And again, I'm glad that we're able to have our agencies actually sitting at the table and having that conversation directly.
No, I'm glad I know that we are more innovative than the majority of the thing. And is Tyler still a leader in that field or not really anymore?
You know, Commissioner Chan, when you know, we started with New World, Tyler
Right.
bought New World.
Right.
Tyler's a big company.
Okay.
They're a very, very, very large company that's international. And I'm sure they've taken what, you know, the things that when they purchased New World, and I know they have another tier one CAD that they've been working on that's different than what we have. And so as a company, people all across the state use Tyler and HR and some of the other venues that they do. I don't know. I've been out of that arena for a while, so I don't know what their newest CAD looks like. And but I can't imagine a company like that has dollars and the ability to do research and development, and they've purchased multiple companies that they don't, and they haven't been working on a tier one platform that's designed for multi-agency police and fire and some of those pieces where the New World CAD started as a police only CAD, right? That's what New World was all about. And then we kind of made it work for multi-agency fire and multi-agency police, which is part of the challenge we've had with New World, to be fair. So I'm sure there's other products out there. I'm sure Tyler, they're not, I don't know what their annual, but I'm sure they're $1 billion company because they're gigantic. I can't imagine they don't have a product that will compete with, you know, the other rest of the industry leaders in CAD. I just think we have New World, which was a company they acquired, and we've not moved off the New World platform because it's not that simple to do. So
Yeah, now, when you mentioned the year 2011, that's so long ago. Now it's just yesterday, but I think the reason I'm encouraging, I mean, I know you guys more innovative. You're sitting at the table because eventually we will be the major fire in the whole area. So we got to be a stronger voice, you know, to lead them, because I don't want to repeat things back to, even Commissioner Withers know about all the New World thing. All right, thank you.
Great, thank you. We'll move forward in the agenda then to item number 12, which is commissioner comments. Are there any commissioner comments? Commissioner Lawrence.
Yes, for reasons only Melissa knows about, I went to the parade last week at Briar. And it was really, really fun. And I took a couple pictures of some high-ranking officers washing a truck or washing a vehicle. I snapped those pictures. I gave them to Leslie. I don't know if she got them. But it was a good experience. I was in the back of the truck. I mean, I rode the first truck, and I was listening to the guys have their conversation, like I wasn't even there, so I learned some things. And it was just the public, you know, all the people, the kids, you know, they enjoyed seeing the truck honking the horn and doing the whistle and the siren, and yeah, it was an uplifting experience. And once again, met a lot of volunteers. Commissioner Fernhoff was there with the crew of volunteers. A lot of volunteers were helping out, and very impressive. We had the young people that want to be full-time fire people, fire personnel, and then you had some like people my age almost. So that's dedication, you know. Some old guy wanting to get out of bed in the middle of the night. So other than for the normal, but yeah, so it was impressive. And the regular guys, you know, our crews, like always, just really impressive folks. Yeah, no, there you go. Comment. That's my comment.
thank you for that, and thanks for attending.
Thank you. Other commissioner comments? Commissioner Chin.
I can't believe it. Opening day is August 30th. Next week, Friday. You remember the last 2 years I've been talking about, are we ready? Are we ready? Ready or not, we're here. So I'm also the organization involved with, like, you do a good deed, never, you get all, when you do a good deed, you never be punished, right? So we're responsible for the community called night market celebration. So from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, if you guys, we have all kinds of performances there for the community. We actually, one of them is we have an Asian Elvis, and he with his band, and he really did a really good job and sing Elvis songs and do the whole thing. So welcome everybody to go there. It's out of courtesy of the Sound Transit, that was the light rail. They pay a lot of money to do that.
Any other commissioner comments? Any other commissioner comments? Okay, not seeing any. Next on the agenda, we have our executive session, which is going to be for collective bargaining pursuant to RCW 423144 A and B. And Chief, I'm thinking 20 minutes. Let's call that for 20 minutes. Why don't we take a 10-minute break from here, 7:55 to 8:05, resume in executive session room at 8:05. We'll go from 8:05 to 8:25 on an anticipated 20-minute executive session. And we do not, Chief, just to confirm, we do not anticipate taking action at the conclusion. We don't anticipate taking action at the conclusion of executive session. So we'll be in a 10-minute recess back to executive session.
All right.
Thank you.
So we should get out of there by 9:30.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Executive session has been extended by 10 minutes. Executive session has been extended by 10 minutes. Executive session has been extended by 5 minutes.
The South County Fire regular meeting has been called back to order at 9:51 PM. And without objection, the meeting has been adjourned.